When most people hear of rock stars, they automatically assume they are exceptionally talented musicians who come fame-loving maniacs living drug-filled lives. This portrayal is true in some cases, but then there are people like Alex Lifeson. Alex Lifeson founded one of the greatest rock bands in history and yet lived as if nothing had changed in his life. He and John Rutsey, who was his neighbor at the time, built the band Rush brick by brick themselves. Even when Rush was discarded by rock media, the duo kept going until they forced their way into rock stardom and then royalty. And in the glory of success, Alex remained incredibly ignorant, playing in sold-out stadiums and going back home to his family every night. No ego, no scandals, just a man, his guitar, and a family that reminded him of why he was doing what he was passionate about. But there was a cost to this quiet fame and staying true to himself. Alex's journey has had its own fill of heartbreak, missed chances, and losses that still haunt fans to this day. This is the tragic and inspiring story of Alex Lifeson. He was actually born Alexander Jevgenovich on the 27th of August 1953 in the small mountain town of Fernie, British Columbia. His name, a tongue-twisting relic of his Serbian heritage, meant son of life. And that's exactly what he became, not just for his family, but for generations often. His parents, Nenad and Melania, were recent immigrants from Yugoslavia, tough, traditional, and hardworking. Like many immigrant families of the time, they arrived in Canada with big dreams and strict expectations. Soon after Alex was born, the family relocated to Toronto. In this multicultural maze of new languages, customs, and cold winters, Alex grew up caught between two cultures. The firm roots of Serbian tradition at home and the fast-evolving Western culture outside. At home, he spoke Serbian. Outside, he adapted to English, rock music, and Canadian slang. His father pushed him toward medicine, a doctor's life. That was the dream, stability, respect, and success. But Alex's passion burned only for music. According to him in an interview, he started listening to music when he was about 10, and that was when he fell in love with it. My brother-in-law played flamkagitar. He lent his guitar to me and I grew to like it, Alex once recalled. Then at 12, his father bought him his first guitar, a Christmas gift, thought he. It was a 6-string acoustic Kent model. It didn't matter that it wasn't the best money could buy. While it was just a toy for most kids, this was the instrument that sealed Alex's fate as a musician. In one of his recollections, he stated, "I've been playing guitar since I was 12. I probably still play 3 or 4 hours a day. Always set aside an hour before I go to bed to play." On choosing the guitar, he elaborated, "When you are a kid, you don't want to play an accordion, but your parents might want you to, especially if you're from a Yugoslavian family like me." Alex would sit for hours replaying blues solos on vinyl, rewinding, studying, teaching himself. He was influenced primarily by the likes of Jimi Hendrix, Jeff Beck, Ritchie Blackmore, Eric Clapton, George Harrison, and Jimmy Page. As a teenager, Alex was completely into music. He and his neighbor, who doubled as his friend John Rutsey, another suburban misfit, started a band together and called it The Projection. In that suburbs of Toronto, inside a small garage, the two boys started building something bigger than themselves. Soon enough, a third person joined them, Geddy Lee, a skinny boy who was kind of new to the neighborhood. Alex and Geddy's friendship had started around 9th grade. The two instantly connected over their love for music, skipping school, and jamming for hours. Geddy played bass and sang. Alex played guitar like someone with something to prove, and both of them had immigrant parents who didn't understand this rock and roll obsession. At just 17, Alex found himself in the middle of a heated argument with his parents. He had just dropped out of high school to chase his dream of becoming a professional guitarist, a decision they strongly opposed. In one of his recollections, Alex stated, "When we told our parents we were starting a band, they didn't take it seriously, but we were deadly serious. By 1968, the band Rush was born. The lineup changed a few times, but Alex was the constant. This was his brainchild, and he wasn't going to let go of it so easily." To the rock and roll scene at the time, by 1968, the band Rush was born. The lineup changed a few times, but Alex was the constant, the quiet architect behind the wall of sound. At first, Rush was just an ethereal band trying to make noise in a bubble filled with new artists, trying to be like Led Zeppelin. But Rush was different. Perhaps because Alex removed a very the tricks that was going to take away any essence from the music. He wasn't flashy like any of the rock stars of the time, and he used this to his advantage. The focus was always on the music, and this made their live shows electric. Alex's guitar work wasn't just technical, it was touching. There was fire in his fingers. Rush soon released their self-titled debut album in 1974 with Rutsey on drums. But unfortunately, the band would suffer some tragic loss. Rutsey was battling diabetes and struggling with the band's heavy touring demands. So, he had to step down. That decision opened the door for Neil Peart, who was just as gifted as Rutsey, but was also a poet who had some interest in philosophy. In fact, the first time Neil met Alex, they weren't immediately leaping into each other's arms. While Alex was more easygoing, Neil was intense, and this made their interactions a little awkward. But all that awkwardness only happened when they were away from the stage. On that pedestal, Alex's nature of leaving out drama and letting the music do the talking never failed to deliver. The band locked in place like puzzle pieces. Rush was revived. Their second album, Fly By Night, felt like a rebirth. Suddenly, the lyrics were deeper. The structures are more complex. Despite these changes, the sound remained the same. Geddy's high-pitched vocals, Neil's thunderous drums, and Alex's glue that held it all together. Then came 211-It was bold, a concept album, a rebellion against their record label. While critics dismissed it, fans turned it into a cult classic. And just like that, Rush went from bar band to rock stars. Alex's guitar work in 2012 was like nothing else. From the chugging riffs of Overture to the weeping tones and tears. He wasn't just playing guitar, he was telling stories. There's a lot of pressure being in a three-piece band, Alex once said. There's no room to hide. You're exposed. But I like that. It pushed me, and Alex would have it neither way. Over the next few years, Rush became unstoppable. They released albums that redefined what rock could be. All through this, Alex was becoming a master of bending strings to exert the most powerful reactions from listeners. On La Villa Strongato, he told a 9-minute wordless story that still leaves guitarists speechless. On Limelight, he poured his soul into that aching solid that perfectly matched Neil's lyrics about the pain of fame. Still, even at their peak, Alex never sought the spotlight. Geddy sang the songs. Neil wrote the words. Alex stood on stage on the left side, head down, lost in sound. I was never a shredder, he said. He always cared more about making people feel something. And did people feel things? By the late 1990s and early 2000s, Rush had outlived most of their peers. Bands had come and gone and trends had risen and collapsed. Rush still remained not through marketing but through loyalty to each other and their fans. However, during this period, tragedy struck and it almost tore us apart. Neil Peart's only daughter, Selena, was killed in a car crash, and 10 months later his wife Jackie died of cancer. Neil was shattered. He left everything behind, disappearing for months. No music, no contact, just the open road and his motorcycle. During this period, the band respectfully waited quietly, even with no guarantee, because Alex later admitted that they never thought to come back, but they never gave up hope. But Neil did return. And that was when Rush recorded Vapor Trails. The music was darker, raw, no synthesizers, just emotion. This was Rush showing the world they were mourning together as sown. As Alex once said, being in a band isn't just about playing music. It is about navigating life together. Vapor Trails marked a bold shift for Rush. It was their first album since the 1970s with no keyboards at all. That change opened the door for Alex to fully unleash his creativity. He played more than 50 different guitars on the record, delivering what guitar player Shahaman described as his most rabid and experimental playing ever. Geddy Lee supported the move away from keyboards partly because Alex had long voiced concerns about their dominance in Rush's sound. Instead of relying on classic riffs and solos, Alex focused on mood, tone, and harmonic depth to shape guitar work on the album. On stage, he took things even further, using foot pedals to trigger synth sounds, guitar effects, and backing vocals in real time while still playing live. It was a true display of technical artistry and sonic exploration. They toured again, not for fame, but for healing. In 2007, they were inducted into the Canadian Songwriters Hall of Fame and in 2013 into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It was long overdue, and even then, when spotlight turned toward Alex, had reflected it with humor. During Thai Rock Hall acceptance speech, while Get Yan Neil spoke formally, Alex stood ath Mick and repeated one word, blah, for nearly 3 straight minutes. It was hilarious, absurd, and oddly brilliant, but behind that laugh was a man who had seen everything. The highs of fame, the losses of life, and the slow ache-off time. In 2015, Rush embarked on what will be their last tour, R40. It wasn't officially a farewell tour, but fans knew the signs were there. Neil was in pain. Years of punishing drumming had left his body aching. Alex too was struggling. He had developed psoriatic arthritis and couldn't move his fingers the same way anymore. He had confessed to fans saying, "My hands would swell opened. I couldn't bend my fingers. I knew I was losing the ability to play like I used to." Was this the end? Fans expected it, but no one wanted to believe it. Each night on that final tour was a quiet goodbye. Geddy's voice was saying it without the words, and fans could feel it. Alex's solos were slower, more emotional, and Neil was playing those drums in pain. After the final show, they didn't hold a press conference, no long farewell speech. They just packed it up and walked away. For years, nothing was heard from Rush. No new music, no public appearances. The members retreated into private life, and in January 2020, the tragedy struck once again. Neil Peart had died of brain cancer. Only a few people knew he had been sick. He kept it quiet, dignified, just like everything he did. The world mourned. But for Alex, the grief was personal. "We knew he was sick, but you're never really ready." Alex said, "He was my brother." Alex still played guitar and wrote music, but it was different now, slower and softer. "I'll never play like I used to," Alex admitted. "And that's okay. I had my time." Words of a man who had experienced the highs and lows, but Alex still had something to give. And in 2021, after the passing of Neil Peart and the official end of Rush, Alex released 2 new instrumental tracks, Carbol Blues and Spy House, on his personal website, with Andy Curran on bass and David Quinton Steinberg on drums. These tracks hinted at something new, and that something turned out to be envy of none. In 2022, Alex unveiled his next major chapter, a supergroup called Envy of None, alongside Curran, producer Alpha Nobelity, and vocalist Maya Wynn. Alex explored darker, more atmospheric scenes. Their debut single Liar dropped in January 2022, followed by a self-titled album in April featuring not just Liar, but also Carbol Blues and Spy House. Fans were hooked. 3 years later, in March 2005, Envy of None released their second album, Stygian Waves, pushing their sonic boundaries even further. Beyond the music, Alex's presence could be felt in pop culture too. His TV debut dates all the way back to 1973. In the Canadian documentary Come On Children, where he appeared as a teenager under his birth name. Over the years, he's popped up in various shows and movies, especially in the Trailer Park Boys universe. In 2008, Rush made a memorable appearance of Tom Sawyer on The Colbert Report, marking their first American TV appearance in over 30 years. The band even had a cameo in the 2009 comedy I Love You Man. Interestingly, the creators of the Drunk and on Drugs Happy Fun Time Hour originally wrote the role of Dr. Funtime specifically for Alex, but due to scheduling conflicts, actor Mitch Aiken ended up taking the role instead. Alex has also made his mark in the literary world, not as an author but through 4 words. He's written introductions for 4 different books, including Behind the Stage Door by Rick Engler, Shredders, The Oral History of Speed Guitar by Greg Toe, Geddy Lee's Big Beautiful Book of Bass, and Dominic Trewino, His Life and Music. From groundbreaking guitar work with Rush to deploy personal solo projects, from movie cameos to literary contributions, Alex Lifeson's journey is far more than strings and solos. It's a lifetime of creativity that refuses to be boxed in. Alex, interestingly, inspired his 2 sons to love music. Justin Lifeson, Alex's first son, eventually found his way into music just like his father. Heffer made his own band, dabbled in independent projects, and started carving out his own path in the industry. Like his father, Adrien, his second son, inherited a love for music. He even collaborated with Alex on 2 tracks, At the Big Dance, from Alex's 1996 solo album, Victor. And through it all, Alex stood quietly behind him, supportive but never overbearing. Beauty even in a well-lived life guided by calm and realism, things one can't control find a way to sneak in. And for Alex, an incident during New Year's Eve 2003, it happened at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel in Naples, Florida. Justin was performing at a private party when police asked him to leave the stage, claiming the music was too loud. What started as a simple noise complaint quickly escalated into chaos. As tensions rose, Alex stepped in to defend his son. But in the scuffle, he was pepper sprayed, bloodied, and arrested alongside Justin. The incident made headlines across the US and dragged it in court for years. Though the charges were ultimately settled out off-court, the story left a scar on Alex Lifeson's quiet public image. Yet in many ways it showed another side of him, not the rock legend, but the father, calm and reserved by nature, but fiercely protective when it mattered most. Offstage, Alex Lifeson is far from stereotypical rock star. He's an avid golfer, a recreational pilot, and a passionate oil painter whose abstract, surrealist works reflect a deeply introspective mind. He also co-owned the Orbit Room, a live music venue in Toronto that became a beloved space for local musicians. It wasn't another means to make more money. It was his way of giving back to the music community that raised him. Despite a career that spans decades and global fame, Alex has managed to avoid the spotlight outside of music. Now in his 70s, he still plays, smiling always, but there's a visible ache in him. The weight of everything he's given and everything's lost. He didn't die young, he didn't burn out. He simply faded while the world kept changing. In the story of Rush, Alex was the foundation and Wuzzle was the engine that kept it alive. People say Alex is a star who never needed applause, but always got it because he was just that good. Without this guitar, Rush wouldn't have sounded like Rush. Without his soul, the band wouldn't have lasted. The funny thing is, over the years, even the biggest stars in rock have all pointed to Alex Lifeson as a quiet giant in the world of guitar. He showed them that a guitar doesn't have to scream to leave a mark, something he did through decades of relentless touring, creative reinvention, and physical pain. He pushed and pushed until Rush was on the front page, and rather than take his place as the leading man of every bandos, he didn't. Alex was never there to hog the spotlight because that was never the goal from the beginning. He had already told fans that he didn't need people to talk about him. He just wanted them to feel something when they hear his music. And since that was what he wanted, it wasn't hard for him to walk away when it was time to do so. And he felt he wanted to come back. It was with open arms that fans welcomed him back. We are all grateful that despite personal tragedies that forced Rush to come to an end, that glorious band still lives on through Alex in 2025.